Hey, it's Kevin, and I'm here at the ShipHero Insider Summit 2025, and I'm sitting next to Ben Gordon of Cambridge Capital, and he just gave a talk on M&A in the supply chain space and M&A in general as well. So Ben, thank you for sitting down and joining me here. Tell us a little bit about what you do and your background.
Sure. Well, thank you and pleasure to be here. I'm a supply chain guy, so I've spent my career in the supply chain industry. In fact, I founded one of the first SaaS TMS companies 26 years ago called Threeplex. So
Okay.
now someone called me an OG, which I think mainly just means old. So, but I've been doing this for a while. I built 5 companies in different areas of supply chain. Threeplex, we ended up selling to Maersk, who sold to IBM. Most recently, I co-founded Greenscreens.ai, which is AI-powered predictive pricing in trucking and truck brokerage. We just sold that to Triumph Bank just a few days ago.
Okay.
And then in between,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
Built our investment bank, BG Strategic Advisors. We've done over 50 M&A deals in the transportation, logistics, and supply chain arena. And Cambridge Capital, our private equity firm, through which we've been an original investor in companies like XPO, and of course RXO, GXO, and a host of other terrific supply chain companies.
So you dabble a little bit in a couple of different things, huh? Yeah, you stay busy for
It's
sure.
all one thing. It's all supply chain.
It's all supply chain, right? So tell us a little bit about, what are you seeing in the market right now for supply chain? What's hot, what's not, I guess? What's really standing out to you as like a big trend?
Well, I think number one big trend is, I'd say there are 3. There's the rebound from the Great Freight Recession. So we saw freight rates peak in February of 22, and they dropped over 50% over the next 2.5 years.
Okay.
And they've kind of been bumping along near the bottom, that floor. Things have started to pick back up again. And smart analysts like Chris Pickett of Pickett Line Research projects a 40-50% increase in pricing over the course of the next 8 to 12 months. Whether it's exactly those numbers or otherwise, I think it's clear that we've hit bottom and things are starting to improve. So I think one major trend is the freight recovery, and that has all kinds of implications for M&A. We have a portfolio company called Everest in truck brokerage. Today,
Okay.
Everest just announced the acquisition of Simple Logistics as they're expanding in the truck brokerage arena. So I think that's one theme. I think a second theme is the growing power of technology in general and AI in particular. There's been a lot of headline noise around things like ChatGPT and the various other iterations, but it's not just at the LLM level, it's also at the level of applications within different industries. And so in logistics, for example,
Right.
at our annual conference, the winner of the BGSA Supply Chain Shark Tank was an AI company called Happy Robot that's using AI to generate voices, so people are calling what they think is a person,
Yeah, they have
but it's
a
really a
really
bot.
interesting solution. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the growing use of AI in supply chain is big. And then third, I think we are seeing a resurgence of M&A and consolidation. The announcement, for example, yesterday that UPS was selling Where to Go is a pretty interesting example of a large company that had spent a fair amount of money building a business and then decided to shift in a completely different direction. And of course, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
And Steward is now excited about buying that business as they're continuing to consolidate in the e-com fulfillment arena. So I think those are 3 big themes that we see.
Absolutely, and I think very interesting themes there, and a lot looking at kind of what's going on right now, but also the future a little bit too, as we talk about some of those AI aspects. So, for 3PLs, right, and the room is full of 3PLs outside the door here where we're recording. What do you advise them to do in terms of, because a lot of them, they want to get acquired someday. Maybe they want to sell their business, or maybe they want to acquire other 3PLs, right? So how would you advise them to prepare themselves for that and make sure they're building a business that is acquirable?
So I think a good principle is, on the one hand, run the business like you're never going to sell it, and on the other hand, run the business as if you were going to sell it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Run the business like you're never going to sell it means make the long-term investment so that the business grows and succeeds, that you're recruiting great people, building great customers, taking the time to add features and functionality that makes good long-term sense. But on the other hand, run the business as if you were going to sell it tomorrow, which means make sure that you have a hook. Make sure what you've built is differentiated, and make sure you can tell the story about how that's differentiated. So for example, while there are hundreds of logistics companies here outside that door,
Yeah.
And some of them are highly differentiated and some of them are not. By definition, there's a bell curve where most people are in the middle, and that's just a statement of fact. So how do you get from the middle of the bell curve to that kind of far end of the right end of the spectrum? Well, it's really about making sure that you have something that nobody else can replicate, and that you can prove that. And if you're able to do those things, then you're in a great position to be able to maximize value.
And so what do you think about the market right now for 3PLs specifically in warehousing? I mean, is there an appetite for acquisition? I mean, we're seeing a little bit right this year, but do you think there's going to be a greater consolidation, or do you think there's opportunity for new 3PLs to start up and open as well?
Absolutely. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for companies in warehousing and in e-commerce fulfillment. I can tell you that we're in the midst of 3 deals of our own right now, which tells you something about the level of activity. And I think, without saying anything confidential, I'll give you a couple of illustrations. I think companies that have some sort of a niche, and that niche could be that they are deep within a vertical, it could be a customer group like CPG, or it could be like refrigerated or temp controlled, or it could be some kind of technology that allows you to do things that others can't do. But number one, some kind of differentiation is important. Number two is proof that the business is successful. Well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
People always say, oh, well, you look at the P&L. But the P&L is a lagging indicator, right? If you're making money now, it's because of something that you did right a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's equally important to figure out what are the leading indicators. Those leading indicators might be how good's your pipeline, how much growth are you generating, how strong is your customer satisfaction. If the satisfaction levels are high, tells you that maybe there's a good opportunity to get more business from those customers and avoid churn from those customers. So figure out what the leading indicators are, not just the lagging indicators. And then I would say the third characteristic of the companies that we're involved with is great people that are going to play a role in the business going forward. When someone says, I just want to sell, cash out, and go away, it doesn't mean that can't happen, but usually nobody knows more about the business than the person that's running it. So if he or she wants to say, I'm done, and leave, you always have to ask the question, well, what do they know that I don't know? So having some ongoing involvement is always a plus factor and a good way to address that.
Yeah, that's a great point at the end there, right? Because it is kind of like, how much of the actual business does that person take away with them, right? Like, were they the face of the company, and were they intimately involved with the clients, and now the clients are like, like we don't like the new person, right? So now, from your perspective, the 3PLs here, like, there's all different sizes of 3PLs here, right? I've talked to some that are, they want to get to the next building, they want to get to 3 buildings, 4 buildings, 5 buildings, they want to grow, right? So do you think it's better for them to acquire another 3PL to grow, or go after and build out their own infrastructure?
Well, I think it all starts with what's the goal and then working backwards from it, okay? Like if you had this conversation like I did with Brad Jacobs in 2011, Brad would have told you his goal was to build the largest consolidator in the logistics arena, multi-billion-dollar business, some of that through organic growth, some of that through what he would call cold start, some of that through acquisitions. But if you could start with, as they say, a vivid vision of what you want the future to be 5 years from now, and then work backwards from it. Some things you can do organically and some things you need acquisitions for. For example, if you have an e-commerce fulfillment company that's great at doing e-commerce fulfillment in New York for high growth CPG brands, maybe they're well equipped to keep doing that. Maybe they're well equipped to add another location that does the same thing for the same customers. On the other hand, if they're looking to diversify, and they're looking to add, say a temp controlled capability, or manage the freight inbound or outbound or otherwise, probably better off buying because you're just going to get there faster. So I think you've got to have a strategy for the organic side, and you should have a strategy for the acquisition-led side too.
Gotcha. Interesting. So very insightful with you here, and great conversation, and definitely a great perspective on the market and understanding kind of what's going on, and some advice too on how to get ready to do certain things for the future of your business. So really appreciate you sitting down with me here at the summit, Ben, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.